Hi, it's Peter here. I got a very interesting comment in my latest video. It was from GK, and I quote, "Some feelings can't be answered by logical questions like why. My motto is to feel click and check how others feel. The art is form from heart to heart." This is really interesting comment, and I really like about the phrase feel click. Let's talk about that. I had a little photo walk last Saturday. I was only out there for about an hour to photograph. Of course, the time to get there took a bit longer, but I only used about 55 minutes for photographing. And here are all the photographs that I took, and I will talk about these photographs, or some of them, later in this video. But let's start to talk about the feel click first and how that relates to these images that I was making last Saturday. The idea of feel click kind of falls into the question of why, because that could be the answer to your question. Why is the feeling? This is the reason I'm photographing, is because I'm feeling something, and that's why I click the shutter, because of that feeling, or I feel this when I click the shutter. It could be interpreted that way too. And when we take it to this stage, it's a lot more personal. And when I'm talking about personal this time, I don't mean the family photos, the your own travels, memories and stuff like that. Those are important, but they're not the feel click in that sense that I understood from that comment. It doesn't mean that the image has to express your state of mind at the moment when you're photographing. The image comes from your way of photographing, your aesthetics, and maybe some, some project you might have, like I did. I started with something and ended up with something, but we'll talk about that a bit later. And I think it's something to do with how you make your images, because I remember Anders Petersen, a Swedish photographer. I took a couple of his workshops about 10-15 years ago, and I remember especially one sentence when he looked at or gave feedback to images, and he was talking about you need to think more with your gut. The image has to feel in the gut. So it's not always from our mind, it's something deeper, what we kind of express. So the feeling has to come from your gut, and I think that's something that is worth considering. Of course, it doesn't mean that you have to always do that, but sometimes you just have to kind of like let it out and do some images and see if that reflects your feeling. I don't really know where the need for me to make images like this comes from. Maybe it's something to do with finding beauty in the ugly in an urban surroundings. I don't know what it is. I started with this image, which is nothing, like alone. It needs to have another image, which is the reason I'm not going to delete this image, even though it's crap. But if I can find something that accompanies that image so that it works together as a pair, or maybe 3 images or more, and it could be part of something, but as alone, as an image like this is nothing. But then I saw this and started getting going, and I think this one is really nice. Here you have the original image, and here's the finalized image. The way I did was, of course, made it black and white first, and then darkened the sky and opened up the windows to make it more interesting. And darkening the sky is for getting those clouds pop out from the image. And I think this is something interesting that I saw. But then I saw this car and remember that, hey, it's yellow week on the 52 assignments. And the first image I took of this car was this one, and I wasn't totally happy with it, so I got a bit closer, which is something that I tend to do. I tend to photograph really close, and I want to just have this thing in the kind of like on the main role. And I think this image is a lot better than this one, because it has the image that's taken closer. It has more shapes and it has more feeling to it, and also the depth of field is a bit better. It's enough to separate the subject from the background, and of course there are the colors that does that too, and the surface or the texture of the things, the shiny, smooth, nice yellow car, and the bit old industrial type buildings, which are more rugged and grungy. So there's a contrast in that too, and then there's the contrast with the colors, and it's also the shapes, and it's a lot closer. That's why I like this image a lot more. And the funny thing is that after I took the image of the yellow car, I started to see yellow things a lot. And then I just walked around and saw all kinds of things. And this especially was one of those things that you get lucky when you're photographing. I saw this, it's actually a garbage can for the bikers. They can throw their, garbage into the garbage bin while they drive or cycle rather. And then I saw this yellow dumpster truck that was, or I don't know what it is actually. It looks like a dumpster truck or some kind of recycling truck. And I waited for it to come and took this image. And then this guy, the food delivery guy, came and there was the yellow and blue, which has been a bit of a theme lately. And I grabbed this shot. Yeah, it works quite well. Started wondering why this guy is actually not riding the bike. It looks like a bike with some small motors, so it's kind of like an electric bike, but he's pushing it and walking. I don't know why. Maybe ran out of battery or whatever. But it's kind of like a question that you might ask, and why is he doing that? And I saw this lady with the yellow jacket on the other side of the street, or the road, or the street rather. Yes. And this is cropped quite a bit because I had a 20mm lens on my camera, and that's why it's cropped. But I don't really mind cropping because most of my images are online anyway, so it doesn't really matter if I crop them. And this is something that many of you might like. You might like this image, and I can see why. It's a simple, easy composition, and you have the yellow there, which is the focusing point for many. But for me, this image is a bit too dull. The light is not really interesting. It's kind of like a deadpan style, which I do sometimes because there is some interest and some, I don't know what the word is, but I feel that it is something when you have this deadpan style image. And this, it's not a bad image, but it's not me. I don't feel that it is me. But but I took it because I like to make images, and sometimes I just, see something and this is nice, and then I might later see that, no, well, not. And of course the opposite too. But what do you think about this image? Do you like this image, for example, as a part of the yellow assignment? Then I went to this contemporary passage over, it's kind of like a bridge that you can walk over a bigger street. And it's a contemporary bridge because they are building something underneath. Actually, they're building a new fast railway. It's kind of like not the trams, but really fast trains that are coming from a new bridge that they're building from the eastern part of Helsinki to this area. And that's why they had to, the older bridge has been taken down, and now they have this. And I found this bridge to be really interesting. It has this steel structures, and then it had windows to give light, and the light inside is really interesting. And then you have some lights on the top, as you can see, some yellow lights, and then some blue lights comes from the outside. Took this image just to see it. It was empty. I just had to wait so that it is empty because I wanted to have this empty. And then people started walking by, and black coats. And then I saw this father with the kid, and the kid had a yellow clothing. I don't know what you call these. This kids' clothes, and I followed them a little while and started to photograph. I made a few images, and I think this one came quite nice, and the contrast with the blue and the yellow. And then this lady came, and I think this one is the image that is the one that I'm keeping from this photo walk. And there's something about this, and the contrast with the nice dress and a bit crunchy, and this kind of combines the style that I have with black and white and with color. I kind of like this style, and the light is really nice. And then of course the editing is something that I did. Maybe I did a bit too much. It's over edited. Maybe I did it. Maybe I need to take it down a bit. But I have to let the image be and see how that goes. But I think the idea of field click is really interesting, and I'm gonna explore that a bit more when I do these photo walks, and maybe I share my thoughts with you if I can kind of like generate some new ideas about that. But I think don't underestimate your feelings when you're photographing, and how you photograph and how that affects do you see any difference about how you feel and what you're going to tell? And sometimes you might feel a bit down, sometimes you might be really happy. How much does that affect your field click? Is it different when you're happy and when you're a bit sad or something, stressful or whatever that feeling is? Does that show in your images? And do you think that you can show that feeling to others too? That is maybe something that you could do and ask someone and show your images and see what they see. How do they feel? Can they see your feelings from that image, or do they see what you want to tell? But I hope this kind of a bit different again about thinking and about feel click was an interesting video for you. And here's the video that I was talking about in the beginning, where you need to ask why and not how. But hey, thanks for watching, and bye for now.